gone down the road around the big hill that was plowed out through there one time. You go around these root balls, you can see these nice little things. These are probably, I think personally, they're trees that were washed down in the '64 flood, and they cut that lumber off of them when they're doing the salvage logging. Left those root balls, which are highly dense, you know, hard wood that don't. Okay, these very well may be the same root balls that Gimlin saw. But what is your opinion? Would they have eroded and rotted away by then?
Well, you're right about the wood being in the river since it lasts longer, preserves it. But the fir rots away pretty fast, but that's exposed fir. The stuff in the river? Yeah.
Last a couple centuries. It is plausible, but no smoking tree in the background.
Not at all yet.
Missing the tree.
Not at all. This area goes way back of this alder and stuff. There's just nothing in the background big enough to be these trees. So something happened to the trees, or they're back there, their remains are, and we haven't found them.
If the sighting occurred right over there, then Patty would have walked through back behind there to that other side of the sandbar, and there's trees back behind there. If you change the perspective by going around this bend.
So she's already heading essentially due north, and the only big trees are back behind us. So the camera would have had to have been over there, behind that big tree, which would be a wonderful candidate for
if it were the other way.
if it was on the other bank.
Maybe you got it all backwards. But I think from Daniel Perez and his shadow analysis, we know it was shot in the afternoon, the shadows were.
I'm very confident of that. I would almost have to say it would have to be on this section, which runs basically east-west, or east to slightly southwest. It would have to be in here.
Where?
It'd have to be somewhere in this area,
Yeah.
because in October you've got a very low sun directly almost to the south, directly behind you, and that's consistent with the lighting in the film, at least the better copies of the film.
So where are we right now, according to that map?
We have just passed here, so we're right in this area. And as you can see on the ground, the turn is much more dramatic. The creek is taking a left or northerly turn of almost 90 degrees. It doesn't really show up so much here, but the white area on the topo map is the area clear of large vegetation and, you know, the obvious creek bed that it could meander in. And we are at this point on an arm of the creek that doesn't really show up in this topo map because there is a second just on the other side of that log, and you can look down, come up here, look back, and you'll see the creek divide in two, which doesn't show on this map. Here's the branching of the creek. And here we start a stretch that is almost due north. No, not quite. It has a ways to go before it's really straightening out, and you can see a good distance.
I think this is what Big Band fits the best. Anyone I've seen fits the description of Gimlin. Who knows what it looked like in '67 though?
Show me that map, exactly where this is again on there.
Well, we just passed that creek.
We've just passed this creek.
We're in that bow there.
And we're starting in this area somewhere. And there are actually two paths of the creek now. One that sort of shortcuts over that area, and we are right where they come together, which I estimate to be about the width of the string.
So where's our destination for today? Where are we trying to get to?
I want to go up in here to show you.
At least to here, and then probably to here.
Maybe here we could go up on the sandbar.
Right. This
Look in there.
this turn does not appear as sharp in the creek as it does in the map.
That
as
is
you
where
can-
the X is. Okay.
Exactly.
That's the X that Perez puts on his
Yes,
thing,
that's
right?
from Rene the Hinden.
Perez-
Rene the Hinden actually
Right,
marked the
Perez's-
map.
That, I believe, is right there at that bend.
But once you're on the ground here, you realize that the trackway of the film could have gone right here through this whole thing. Especially if you consider that this had a lot more sand in it in the day.
Right.
So, I mean, Patty could have started walking right here and walked across that. That could have been the trackway of the film right there.
Mm-hmm.
So the Daniel Perez mark right here would have been accurate in that she could have, they like there's that gravel bar
Mm-hmm.
that I showed you in that picture.
Yeah.
They could have come around the big bend and the root balls that Gimlin describes. Maybe seen her right here. She starts walking right back in here. Patterson finally gets the camera rolling right about here. She's walking this way. Patterson runs up here into this area, starts filming her as she cuts across here, and then the film runs out right about there. That's what I think. But it could very well have happened down here. This could have been
Right.
a big bend. She could have been seen right here and walked across there.
But you look at the topography, why just disappear up the side of the hill? If you make a loop around where the path of least resistance, you can get a little bit further out. That makes sense. That's a couple coves there.
Well, this is, you couldn't really retreat up any of this. It's way too steep. The best way for her to get out is in here. A shadowy area that is narrow and couldn't be seen.
Right?
And this bank up here is not as steep as the one on the other side.
Correct. Makes perfect sense for that direction of travel.
Well, this is where it starts to look like a plausible area where they might have first seen the creature. After the big bend, which ends right there, they may have come up around this big bend here, but it's quite plausible that they saw the creature right in here. Then she would have retreated about 112 feet before the film even begins. Meanwhile, Patterson, this is just a possible theory. Patterson would have been getting his, a little bit more level here, getting his camera out of the saddlebag, running across the creek up this bank. But you can see at that old sandbar level right there,
Yes.
it was even higher than this current gravel bar right here. But she would have been retreated in there 100-some feet before the film even begins, and then progressed from there quite a number of feet farther before he shifted position to get frame 352. So if this is the spot, 352 would have been shot back against those back trees back right in there. And that actually also happens to be up on the second sandbar, which Cliff Barrickman talks about.
All right.
So this is one, somewhere in this area I think they saw her. And I think that seems a little too far, but once you get out the measure, you might be able to go through those trees and get your 300 feet or so. But it's certainly capacious enough to allow for the film site to exist.
Right. I mean, without measuring, I could tell you you're going to fit 300-something feet through here.
But we still have to get closer to the trees.
Right.
I mean, if we pace it off, how many feet is this, you know? It's like, where did we measure from? That was 10 paces.
Bigfoot lives.
He may have started filming when he got across the creek down first see a creature, he's running up the bank. So we're still at about 30, 50 feet. He's not even filming yet, necessarily. Somewhere around here. She would have been about 100 feet away. Back in there. Back against some of this kind of tree stuff that she's growing. And there are those nice big trees in the background you start to see. But they look like they're growing way up on the hill.
They do. We'll find out more when we get closer.
So you may have to pause it farther upstream a little ways.
Here's another one of these like little puddle things you see in some of the footage.
Oh, it's red. Red.
Yes. Overgrown a little bit. There's a stump right here on the back side of this, and there's a hole. Low point. Sea pole. There it is.
That's not that close to Patterson. I mean, Patterson's back in here with his camera angled up, so he's looking over across the creek. His position on the creek and running across the creek would not have allowed for that wet part to be the creek.
No, because he already crossed the creek.
That's closer to the creature than Patterson, probably.
Right, he already crossed the creek.
So that's got to be something besides the creek. It's some kind of a spring
Or a seep,
or
some
an
low point
upwelling.
where water's accumulating.
And then, you know, you go across, suddenly it's on the other side. And then you see the creature walking back in here. I mean, that's Patterson's running up to that, and she's retreating. These are the first few frames of the film. You know, potentially the first frame right there. Mm-hmm. That first glimpse you get of the creature, anyway. That's 112 feet between the camera and Patterson. Patterson's already on the creek or starting to run into the creek up this embankment. So I don't know what the hell that is.
Looks like a low point was retaining water to me.
I mean, if you're looking across at something 112 feet away, that's up on a bank about 5 feet higher than you are.
Right.
Then you're looking up. You're standing on the creek, so the creek is not going to be in your camera view at all.
No. It's pretty much behind you, or because I think if you moved along, it would be like flanking.
And if you look at the images of the film site, the creek does not bow up that way in that spot. It's a gradual loop around the gravel bar.
Right. We're in here somewhere, and I think we've gotten to the top.
Almost.
And this this hard turn to the east, the right turn, just doesn't really exist. I think this whole area has straightened out.
What about the images from Daniel of Renee on the film site? Did you bring those? Are they going to get all wet otherwise? We could look at those later. But this looks to me a lot like the area where you see Barbara Wasson and Renee Hinden standing. It's just thoroughly overgrown.
We have 105 yards horizontal distance was the best repeatable measurement for those trees on the horizon.
So that's like 300 feet.
That's more room than is explained.
Yeah, it's too big for the film.
Even if they were filming from right here, even if they were filming from inside of all of that mess, when the area was absolutely trees,
he would still be into those trees before he even got the first. That's 100. She would have been back into those trees. 108, 112 feet, I think it was. From the first sighting, the first frame. Wherever he got the first frame, the creature's 100-something feet away. So she's a third of the way back to those trees. And she retreats farther east and north. Very well could be getting closer to that.
So let's move right around here and see what it looks like.
Because we're not to the bowling alley yet. Renee Hinden's mark on the map would have to be like here or up there, at that bend right there. One of these two places. But doesn't this look a lot like that photo? I mean, the way it kind of goes in like this onto the sand. trees. The trees are in the way.
There's another one of those big stumps.
This is where Cliff is located.
So this is Cliffside,
I believe so.
where he thinks it started?
The sandbar being up there now, 6, 7 feet high or more. And the higher are down there. But I believe Cliff thinks it started right here. The Hinden's X would have been right in here somewhere.
So that blotch right there on the map, that's where Cliff Brockman is saying?
That's where he's saying.
Right there.
Right before that straight line going north.
So it basically it's just downriver from the bowling alley, the long straightaway.
Right at the base of it.
So the slide area is relatively close to the spot. So
The rock slide on the road.
See, it slides about right here. Actually,
I would think so, yeah. So it's all done by talking in an email. But the Patty's Creek creature would have been walking through here. There is a nice sandbar up there. And at the appropriate distances, you can see those trees get a lot closer here. Those big firs in the background. According to the Titmus diagram, Patty would have come out, the film would have stopped in here. She would have come out into the creek bed, crossed the creek, gone up this hill here, and traveled back along here, sitting somewhere up there with a view of the guys down on the sandbar, which of course would have been all open down there. So it wouldn't be covered in trees back then. This is only one potential site, you know. The other one down there is pretty plausible. Without the big trees in the back, and you may never know. But that X is right down there, I believe, by that log jam.
you're talking about the one that's put on the
Native Indian X, that triangle crest coverage.
one that's marked on it.
So you need a certain distance where it goes to the east, and then it heads directly north, which you'll see here now. Right after the X, it goes straight line north.
This is all the alluvial deposits, all squashed along here. So deep that is, Stephen, for comparison. And the river, over a period of time, has been eroding everything we're standing on, back down to its original channel. But this is all deposits.
This would be the ground Patty walked on, up here, somewhere. You can tell it's a flat, level thing. It's been there for quite a while. Probably, never was crested after '64. All of this is down, eroded all the hill down here. You can see more of that nice Bluff Creek sand right there. Looks like exactly what you see in that Lyle Laverty photograph of the print.
Yeah.
Get how it holds that form there.
Good stuff.
It's very malleable. You see more of this stuff up there that's really fine, really nice.
Bigfoot lives. Where are we right now?
We think we're right about here, looking at this long northerly stretch. The consumer GPS has stopped even pretending to give readings in this area. One obvious thing, though, is that it is very steep on both sides. And there's considerable erosion.
Yeah, look at that. How high would that be?
That's from where we're standing, 7 or 8 feet. And the banks are incredibly steep. The islands under curve are very high up right now. So I don't think we can match the background anywhere in this area.
What would you say compared to me? I'm 6 feet tall. This is level.
Another half of your height,
Not 9 feet up.
maybe 10. A lot of erosion took place here. This is, water speeds up right through here.
Yeah, probably when they had the flood, there was a dam that filled this whole gulch all the way from down there, all the way up to here, with sand and gravel and wood debris.
Because all it needs to do is slow down, and then it silts out, and then it starts piling up.
It's plausible. Yeah, I'm still not fully convinced. I mean, it seems plausible, but the trees worry me. You know?
So the trees right now are way too far away.
Well, let's get up in there and we'll see. Actually, I don't think they are so far, but there aren't enough of the big ones that would be the same tree in the film.
And they probably would not be eroded away because the river's way on this side and this is the canyon.
Yeah, it would have had to fall down or be logged
Right.
out or something. It very well could have been logged out since then.
Which would leave stumps, which is hard to see in this terrain.
But back in there, you'll see there is a very nice sandbar.
This is like overgrown big time.
Well, this is the film site. This would not have been in the film yet, you know.
Correct.
This is the part past the log debris, the end.
So you're saying if this was the place where they,
Well, I
if
don't
this
know.
were the place,
This is one potential area. There are some big trees right back there, as you can see through. We should go look at those trees. From here, the Hindman's X is right down there.
this width fits the,
Yes,
this
It's in
fits the
there.
width. And the creek's behind us according to the map,
This
correct?
is behind us,
And the creek's been behind us for quite a while.
and this is the largest section of this clay soil that we found so far, right under the leaves and dust.
Are you getting a sand sample?
I was just pointing out what a large area this is with this material.
Because what they're growing in is not soil. Way up here on the sandbar, it's all sand. Way down in there, it's not soil.
It's all alluvial deposits, 564.
Very fine too.
Yeah, and everything on our left out this way, the river's cutting it open. And so this river hasn't been up here probably since 64.
I doubt it. The creek would have to flood again. And there have been flooding events, but nothing major like
Nothing
that.
like that to be behind this. And it was something about trees. I see, looks like I got a big tree out that way. The fir straight through.
Now there's a wall of firs all through here.
And the height is right with these guys, aren't they? Like that one straight through right there. That's a good height.
Well, I like some of the trees in the back for the candidate, but it's really hard to see them. There's a nice big fir right there.
That's
too.
what I was looking at.
Yeah.
It's right on the edge. It fits some of the picture's location because it's not too far up the
Want to go
hillside.
see them or rule them out?
So what are you thinking?
There's a nice big one right
Yeah,
there.
don't have a wide enough field of view to really,
So you're saying too many trees in the way?
there's too many trees now.
Yeah.
And perhaps some candidates, but right where they start, it is almost vertical.
Which makes
And-
perfect sense according to the map there.
Well, according to here, it looks like it's pretty steep, but in this photo, which matches up very well, there's light showing through them, like the creek
Bends. Yeah.
bends sharply, or there's an otherwise huge open area behind it. Just doesn't match up here at all. And other site photos show very similar. You can actually see sunlight through these trees, so it shows that the bank is not very high, and there's a large open area behind it.
Like on a turn.
Like on a turn, like a pretty sharp turn. You don't really catch that here because
He's shooting.
I think he's more here, and the other shot was a little more from here. See, these trees, that tree line up, that one line up pretty well. Okay, not in that one. With this one, that tree is visible, that leaner is still there, and I think that's the largest tree. So this shot was taken perhaps from where he started to film. Now that doesn't make any sense. The camera was definitely more this way when 352 was shot, and a famous log across the front isn't visible here, so this may have been Patterson's starting perspective. But it's clearly the same area, but shows much more off to the right. And that's not really plausible with this area. The creek is so narrow.
Yeah, so now.
30, 40 yards across maybe, and when you hit the Douglas firs, it goes up fast.
So what's the verdict?
I feel really good about it. It coheres with the Gimlin mark very well. Its dimensions are large enough. There's a nice sandbar here. There's the proper trees. I mean, there's some firs and things coming in here, but
And you said there's some big trees to show me?
well, these back here, I like to look for them. And then I'll probably say no though. I think that big fir there is one of the examples of a tree that's in the right position, the right distance, and the right general size, and it's growing from the very bottom of the hillside there, right up against the sandbar, just like you see in the film. There's a number of them. You can see how there's not as many down there, just like you see in the film.
Yeah, so this one.
Down here, there's significantly more. So if you had a frame 352 right in here, you could be seeing these trees as the background trees. But not all of them are down on the edge. There's some nice big trees right here. A cluster of 3 of them even. Ian would get over here with those pictures. We might be able to compare them. But there's another big one right here. They're all growing right on the back, right on the ground level. Basically, behind you are 3 really big fir trees that we would assume all of them are vastly older than 40 years, several hundred years probably. So any of these big firs would have been here when the film was shot, and wouldn't have changed all that much in size since then, right? I mean, an old growth tree,
No.
it grows slower and slower in terms of its apparent size. When it gets old, it starts spreading out its wings more. But I think these are all perfectly positioned, you know. You can capture them. I don't know if these are the trees, but they are very similar to what you see in the film.
Bigfoot lives. Interesting spot here. We have look like an old maple right here. Just a little bit lower on the hillside, at the base of the hill, than these other fir trees. So if this was all cleared out during the time of the footage, then you should see these. This one in particular, it's got a weird growth shape to it. It looks like it's a three-forked tree with the growth on the bottom. It should be a very unique thing. So right now, how do you guys feel about this site right now? What we've seen so far today,
I'd like to hear what you know.
what we looked at, Ian's got all the pictures over there. How does this fit up? I mean, you feeling good about this, or pieces of puzzle still missing?
He's not seeing the tree.
The one tree. The one in the photo, where is it?
Well, there's no obvious direct match to any of them. But this is the only place along this immediate bank where we do have some trees close to the ground and not 20 feet or higher up
Correct.
the bank, in addition to the 8 to 10 to 12 feet that we're above the stream right now. So that is good. An interesting coincidence with some of the historical photos of the site is that looking that way, I do see daylight through the trees. I think it is 2 feet here. So look at this photograph. It's flat from right here on.
That's a different angle, though.
It's only
He's
a few
looking
feet
more
off.
eastward
Exactly, he is.
than this. This is looking more northeast.
Exactly, but we're looking at that tree and that tree. So this is right here, and
You don't get a very good idea of the
you
depth
don't-
of field there.
right, you don't have depth perception here. You do here,
That's more to the east, though. Where's
But
the big
exactly.
tree?
the big tree is right here.
You can't tell from the printing. Yeah.
Yeah, the glare is something else.
Oh, there's
Same thing here, almost the identical perspective as Patterson, and there's clear daylight back through here. And
Is that daylight or just lighter colored leaves?
it's consistent with some of the other historical photos that seem to show daylight and an opening to the quality of these
in this
images.
direction right here. Right?
Well,
Through there.
exactly, but we're not looking through there. From this angle, we're looking through there.
Looking in that
Exactly, we're looking in there, and we're not seeing this
These
steeper
are,
bank.
these are old firs right here.
Yeah, but
See
they're
that nice cluster? 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3.
but then this tree is right here someplace.
Yeah,
And
I
where's
don't
that maple? Would that maple be in that shot as
These could be these, and that could be that one, but there's too many other big ones back next to it. So, you have a problem. But these guys could be that cluster right there. And then the next big is high up, and this one, the big one, definitely starts.
That's very distinctive, pretty old. What are we seeing there?
1, 2 slightly sideways. Something. A few smaller ones. Right there. Right there, there's 2,
Sorry.
3, 4, there's like 5. This is totally perfect, in my opinion. There's more, like I'm trying to say, there's more there, but your maple is obscured if it's in here. It's back in there somewhere.
Take some stills of this. You compare later.
I don't know. It looks really good.
Well, the biggest tree here is not the big tree.
That is not the big tree.
That can't be the big tree.
It looks pretty big to me.
We're 30-something feet away from it, and look at its size here. It's clearly larger than everything else, and it's over 100 feet
It
away
sits
from
more
the other
forward than the other ones too.
one. A little bit, and then that's within the realm of possibility.
But you
No
see,
better
that's a
than
big
anything else.
cluster of old firs right there. All of these very similar to those. I mean, I really like the looks of it. The big tree has a slight tilt too, doesn't it? And that thing's got a slight tilt.
It's got a bunch of branches sticking out of the edge too.
What, this?
Yeah, is
Well,
that branches?
Those would probably be where those breaks come off. You know, you see them on the trunk right there. I don't know. I actually like the looks of these things. Can't photograph them.
One obvious thing, if this is our big tree, its lean apparently has changed
Slightly
from the
more.
right to the left now.
Oh, you think that means right?
But it looks like it's more right to me than left.
Who knows, huh? That's a good point, though. It's unlikely an old tree that starts to lean with it again, leaning the opposite direction.
Unless the negative was inverted. I think Mums would have spotted that.
I think those trees are really close. I think they're pretty convincing. But it'd be easier to take the images of them and compare them in a dry room rather than in
Yeah, we'll take another digital
saturated
from
forward.
this angle and see if we can compare it.
But it's really difficult to photograph them.
All the trees in the way.
Up close they look smaller and thinner, and you don't get a sense of the mass and the density of the forest behind them. And there are no stumps that we can see.
Yeah,
So whatever stumps there were,
like gone.
if they were here, eroded away too. Unless they're in here somewhere.
Let's go. Yeah, here we are, September 18th, 19th.
Hello,
County.
Hey Davis. See
Hey.
that? It's green.
This is green. These are the vine maples, almost like a little marijuana leaves on them. The
In
vine maples.
in
These turn
October.
scarlet red in October, late September. And here we are. Vine maples. See the size of the leaves? In October, late September. Right now they're still nice and green, but this whole river shed is spotted with these everywhere. So this is the big red you're seeing. The big leaf maple is the yellows. The vine maple, scarlet red.
That's it.
This good sized root ball here amongst these alders, a couple maples. It's a huge root ball. This isn't going anywhere. This is anchored in pretty good, especially with the trees locking it in right now. So in the Patterson-Gimlin film, they worked their way around the root ball. So we're gonna keep looking out for those items like that. This place is starting to look familiar.
I feel like I've gained 30 pounds of water on my clothing.
I think that's a really long shot.
Where was the creek, Peter?
So this is the longest shot then.
I think so.
So far, but I haven't taken you downstream.
The longest shot, the closest walk.
Maybe downstream for tomorrow.
Good exercise.
We are here, about a mile back up.
Yep. And
That's a long mile back up.
a mile and a half to drive.
Bigfoot lives.